presenter is Jake Conklin. He's going to be presenting on exploring the field of cybersecurity. I will turn it over to Jake now.
All right. So yeah, I did explain the field of cybersecurity. Why I chose this topic for my capstone. At the time of my decision for the topic of my project, I planned on majoring in criminal justice. After I did some research, I realized that this field was not what I wanted to study, and I changed my focus to computer science. Instead of getting rid of all my previous research, I decided to combine it. With the help from my mentor, I was able to keep most of my research and focus my project on cybersecurity. How I completed my project, I used news articles, websites, people, including my mentor, a cybersecurity officer at the Guilford Police Department, and a professor at University of New Haven, Professor Bagili. So some of the problems that I encountered with my project, mainly it was just from coronavirus. It made it difficult to meet with people. I couldn't visit any police departments or go to a library to do research. I joined a few webinars. I had some emails back and forth with people and video chats. What is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is softwares, processes, technology, and other practices used to protect networks, devices, and data from theft, damage, unauthorized access, or attacks. Some examples of cybersecurity are network security, application security, information security, operational security, disaster recovery, and end-user education. The first one is network security. Network security creates a secure platform, safe network for users and software. It prevents unauthorized people from gaining access to the networks. It prevents misuse, malfunction, disruption, modification, and improper disclosure. It detects problems within the network and then fixes the problems that it identifies. After that is application security. This develops, adds, and tests security of a software or network. It enhances security. More and more attackers are targeting, or hackers are targeting applications. Many of them have security flaws, which is why it's important to increase protection on them. Application security includes tools and other types of protection. One of those tools is static testing. This analyzes codes. It checks codes while they're being developed. The next one is dynamic testing. This also analyzes codes, but it shows different ways that cyber attacks can happen while the code is running. Interactive testing is another tool. It's a combination of dynamic and static testing. And then the last one is mobile testing, which is just made specifically for mobile operating systems. The next one is information security. This keeps data safe from theft and unauthorized alterations. It includes hardware and software to protect the data. Some of those are firewalls or encryptions, and encryptions are just hiding data in code to prevent unauthorized access. It keeps the data confidential, which means the data is hidden, and it's only available to those who are authorized to access the data. The integrity aspect of it makes sure the data is unchanged and correct. Then the availability is just to make sure it's only accessible to those who are allowed to access it. The next one is operational security. This is basically just procedural security. It has risk management processes. It separates sensitive data first, like finances, customer information, employee information. Then it identifies threats. It figures out what kind of threats are involved in each category. It figures out security flaws or weaknesses, the level of risk within each flaw, and how to eliminate the risk. Disaster recovery. This quickly tries to restore data and information. This includes a process of what to do following a disaster. The disaster could be accidental, natural, or intentional. It identifies potential disasters and comes up with a disaster recovery plan. Organization is essential in this, and the goal of it is to just return back to the same way of the operation before, or with the same data and information before the disaster. The last one is end user education. This teaches people how to protect their devices and networks. That helps protect things from human error. You got to make sure you're aware of suspicious emails. Don't use unauthorized USBs. Make sure you have strong passwords. scan for viruses occasionally, and don't connect to unauthorized networks. Next, we're going to focus on cyber threats. Cyber threats are potential damages to networks or systems. There are three main types of cyber threats, which include cybercrimes, cyber attacks, and cyberterrorism. The first one is a cybercrime. This is illegally accessing a system for criminal reasons like financial gain or trying to cause problems in a system. It's also one of the most lucrative criminal operations. Some examples of it are identity theft, cryptojacking, which is when you infect a user's device and it causes high electric bills. Cyber extortion, a hacker makes the files unreasonable, and it will only unlock them after a ransom is paid. Cyber attacks, this takes over a network or system. It allows complete access to the hacker. They can steal and or destroy information. Some places where it's popular to have a cyber attacker on a cloud or mobile devices and a software supply chain. A software supply chain is when one piece of software is infected and then it just causes a chain reaction and infects a bunch of other software around it, sharing the same network or computer or device. Finally, cyberterrorism. This uses systems and networks. The intention of it is to cause a widespread of fear. It's usually politically motivated, and it could be countered by practicing safe security measures, establishing a disaster recovery plan, and increasing security. Malware is the software really used to cause cyber threats. It stands for malicious software. It's used to make money, damage computers, and it's usually spread throughout emails. The first part of the first type of malware that we're going to focus on is a virus. This attaches to one file and then it spreads throughout the entire system. It infects other files, but not all viruses are completely destructive. A Trojan is the next one. It's disguised as a legit software, and it causes damage, collects data, and it's made to trick the user. It's one of the most common types of malware, and it's also one of the most dangerous. Spyware, this allows hackers to get private information from a computer. It accesses the hard drive and secretly records everything that the owner of the computer does. It could obtain things like credit card information, and it's fairly easy to detect this with normal antivirus software. The next one is ransomware. This locks files and data, and it's only unlocks if ransom is paid. It can infect computers through emails. It can infect computers through advertisements. Scareware is another component of this. This is where your computer gets lots and lots of pop-up ads saying that you have a virus. And then if you click on it, then your computer will be infected with the virus. Screen lockers, this is where your PC is frozen and it asks you to pay a fine from the government in order to unlock the computer. The next one is Adware. This is just advertising that can spread viruses. They can be automatically downloaded to your computer. It shows ads over and over again, and even when you don't click on them, keep going. Or if you do click on it, then it'll just get worse. Some ways to tell that your computer has this virus is when your browser homepage changes without permission. Certain website links can take you to different sites. Your browser could crash, and it's not really easy to remove. Botnets, they're just networks used to perform tasks without permission. A botnet attack is when one or more bots infiltrate your computer, they steal data, send spam emails, and they're not that hard to detect and remove. So next I had an interview with a cybersecurity officer, Sergeant Matt Larson at the Guilford Police Department. The first question I asked him was, what are some of the biggest challenges about cybersecurity? He answered and said, the biggest challenge facing cybersecurity is currently the rapid evolvement of technology and the rate of new threats being designed and exploited at a pace and frequency that makes it very challenging to keep up with. The dark web has made it very easy for new hackers and cyber terrorists to learn and share IDs in near real time. Many threats are modified by end user, and the slight changes in coding or file signatures make it so that threat detection and scanning does not recognize the new signature as malicious until it has been deployed and executed. Next, I asked him, what's an average day like in the world of cybersecurity? He said he couldn't speak on that from a civilian or corporate view, but on the law enforcement side of cybersecurity, security is often spent on tracking the suspects and threats after they've been executed on the systems and are discovered by victims or IT personnel. Because of the search and seizure restrictions placed on law enforcement by the Constitution, many of the requests and follow-ups that we conduct require legal process, such as search and seizure warrants or subpoenas. This process causes delays in receiving information and sometimes are the cause of the investigation or the investigation not being able to be completed. Another factor is the lack of reciprocity or recognition of U.S. legal authority in foreign countries where many cyber investigations lead. Many days are spent analyzing data and acquiring images from victim systems and networks, sometimes performed in the field, but most often done in a lab environment. After I asked what are the pros and cons of working in this field, he told me that the pros in working in cybersecurity for me is that you can make a real difference in aiding a victim and trying to make them whole. The work is very challenging and requires constant training and updating to stay current on trends, threats, and technologies, which make it an exciting field to work in. The ever-changing threats and technologies are also a con, as you always feel like you are playing catch-up to the criminal actors who are committing these crimes. Another con from the law enforcement aspects is that many of these new technologies are very expensive and cannot be easily acquired by federal or municipal agencies. I asked what are some of the most important aspects in cybersecurity. He said that one of the most important aspects in cybersecurity is often the most overlooked, and that is the human factor. No matter how good your threat protection, like firewalls, antivirus, anti-malware policies are, if the human controlling the machine is not following the established policies and does not have proper training and threat protection, all of these protections can be bypassed or defeated. Many cyber attacks are successfully completed because a human end user clicked a link or opened a file that contains malicious content. What advice do you have for someone thinking about going into the field of cybersecurity? My advice would be to be certain that you have a genuine interest in this field, as you will need to spend many hours, often outside of work, keeping up with the changes in the field. Unlike some careers where changes are minimal and you can work in a day.
Over 1.5 million living animal species have been described, approaching around 1 million.
In a day in and day out, doing mostly similar job tasks and functions as you did from the start. That same cannot be said about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity changes by an easy target, or changes by the minute, and if you are not keeping up with the changes, and you will find yourself to be an easy target. Some companies will never recover, usually financially, from a single data breach or cyber attack. With the increase in popularity of ransomware and file encryption without proper cybersecurity and data backups, a ransomware attack could cripple a business. This project has taught me, or this is about what this project has taught me. I learned a lot from this project. For starters, I realized I didn't want to be a criminal justice major. Without this project, I'm not confident that I would have been able to realize that until it was like too late and I had a job in the same field. I learned how to manage my time well with such a time-consuming project. I believe that this has helped me prepare for the future, especially in college, because time management is an essential skill to have. Finally, I learned more about cybersecurity than I could have ever imagined. And then these are just my citations.
Nice job, Jake. So as your school counselor, I have to tell you, I'm so happy that you did this project, number one, because of the experience, but mostly because I think it really helped kind of like you said, figure out what direction career-wise you're thinking of going into. And like you said, if you didn't do this, you may have gone in the criminal justice direction. And while that may have been okay, it sounds like computers is something you're more interested in focusing on.
Yeah.
The interviews that you had with the professionals in the field were excellent. I think, I know it's been difficult with COVID to not be able to have that face-to-face experience with people, but you really made it work with webinars, with interviews. You did an excellent job. Lots of research, a lot of detail. We're really impressed.
Thank you.
For those of you who are tuning in, you can use the chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can make comments or ask questions. Our first one is from Mr. Masseni. Wow, you covered so many areas in the field of cybersecurity. Your knowledge with computers and new technology will make you a valuable employee for a company someday. Should your interest in computer science take you in that direction? I think we all agree on that. Do you have an interest in going into cybersecurity in regards to computer science, or are you not really sure yet?
I'm not sure yet. I think I might, but who knows?
This might get you a good starting point in terms of looking into it a little bit more. So I'm glad it was a great experience for you. Thank you so much for joining today. And if you have any questions, just reach out and let me know, okay?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.